So coach's comment, Tony is buying way too much into hardcore wrestling fans and not paying attention to what actually works in entertainment. I would have started more social and TikTok content. He's not wrong. He's not wrong with that. I
You
think there's a lot of truth to that.
The problem is, and we've talked about this before, is the main reason that Tony got into this, other than the fact that he could put up the money, because like if it weren't for Tony, AEW wouldn't exist because the other people didn't have the money to
No one had the money.
Yeah, so it was funded by him and Daddy.
Daddy
He's a mark at heart. You know what I mean? He grew up a wrestling fan. He's a huge mark. He doesn't understand the business side of wrestling. He only understands the fan side of wrestling. So I think that that's where there's that problem, because like Vince McMahon grew up around the business because his dad was a businessman for wrestling. So like even if he grew up a fan, he was put into a position to see the other side that all of us don't get to see. And so then when he was taking over, he was primed and ready because he grew up with it. You know, it's the same thing with like Stephanie McMahon. She could have easily taken over had she not had to step down because Vince is a toolbox. But like, I think that's the problem that it seems to me that Tony keeps running into, is that he just does things based off of what social media is telling him, which, you know, you cannot listen to what wrestling fans tell you to do, because if you do, you're going to die by your own sword, because you're not
sword.
Yeah, you can't cater to everybody. You can't make everybody happy. You're going to upset fans. There's going to be fans that are not going to be happy with something. It's like it's so yeah, he just needs to make better decisions based on what is better for business and the company, and not is what's going to get the best reaction from the majority of fans online. I think that's part of it, or what he wants to see, because he's kind of a mark for his own company, you know?
I agree with that, but and there's truth to that. My only other comments I'd say is that you have to have an alternative. I mean, I think we saw that with TNA back in the early 2000s and how they developed their own brand in a sense where there is an alternative, there's a market for it, and it's, whatever, where that's their style. And it's just you're trying to grow too much externally before you grow internally, in my eyes. That's kind of the easiest way to put it. But I love AEW as the AEW person here. But yeah, there's from a fan's perspective of the product, it just seems like that they have something going really well with the product already, and Collision should not be on TNT but YouTube TV.
Well, and I don't mean that they shouldn't be a competition for like WWE, or that they shouldn't exist. I just mean like there are times where you do have to make decisions where people are going to be upset. Like, let's look at WWE, for instance. Let's look at WrestleMania. How upset were the majority of wrestling fans after Cody Rhodes lost to Roman Reigns? You know, like that was a decision where it was trending on Twitter for days after Mania because people were so upset. That's something that I feel like Tony doesn't want to deal with. He just wants to try and like please as many people as he can. And so he doesn't want to make those tough decisions that like people, because in the long run, as we've talked about before, it makes way more sense for Cody to have lost at WrestleMania than to have won. And so like now that we're months removed, you can admit it that, you acted, it was like a gut reaction where people were upset. Yeah. And now you can accept it. And I feel like that's something that if you're not experienced in the business side of wrestling, which I'm not saying I am, but you're not going to be able to like see that beforehand. Whereas like Triple H was like, no, like you're going to see why it's all going to make sense and why it's going to be worth the wait. So to me, it just feels like Tony doesn't understand that all the time. It's not like everything that he does sucks. Obviously, there are loyal fans. They're traveling around the country. Like, I don't mean that, but
sold 70,000 tickets to Wembley.
Yeah, I mean, so they have to. It's just that, he has to get better at making decisions that might be questionable for people at the moment, but it'll make sense down the road. Like, you can't, like I said, you can't please everybody all the time.